everybody? Welcome to the On Call Coaches podcast, where we take a deep dive into the world of amateur player development, private skills, coaching, and video training. I'm your host, Coach Switz.
And I'm Coach Zane.
How's it going today, Coach Zane?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Oh, not bad. Weather's beautiful. Good weekend. It's Monday. Feeling good.
What a crazy weather pattern we're in here in St. Louis. It's
unbelievable.
People in Southern California pay a lot of money to have this type of weather. 50s at night, 70s during the day. Everybody but outdoor rink people really like this weather.
Well, last week you needed your arc to get around town.
100%. Yeah, it was a little rainy last week, but cut 2 or 3 of those days out. It's been
beautiful.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No complaints on weather here this year. Talk about today, convo today. I want to talk about coaching or practicing fundamentals over flash. What I mean by that is, do you practice or teach something you'll do 20 times a game? Or do you practice or teach something you might do 20 times your whole career in a game? I'll hang up and listen.
Definitely the things you do 20 times a game. I mean, I think you kind of answered your own question there.
Well, you laugh, but I don't see that a lot of the times.
I don't either, and it always amazes me of what some of the kids practice and try to do based on what they saw on social media or these flashy moves that, again, like you said, we're going to use that once a season. Maybe it's 20 times in your whole career, if that, for some of them, versus, just for us in hockey, just skating up the ice, stick handling, or even standing still and stick handling, or working on balance, bringing it down to the fundamentals. It's just like a pyramid. You got to build that foundation before you can start.
Yeah, just like your sis was saying.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if you're missing some of those foundational skills, sometimes you can trick the system and do the flashy move that's up here without building everything down here. But there's a lot missing in between.
Yeah.
And, as you build that foundation and you get stronger with just your basic stick handling, shooting, passing, skating, then you can get to a little bit flashier moves that you can use every game, but it's more of a different way to take that shot or a different way to make that pass, or it is maybe a little bit of a saucer pass instead of a straight line pass on the ice, but you've mastered that pass on the ice. And then you see when it presents itself to use that flashy move in the right place. That's the other thing I see is these kids learn these flashy moves, and then it's like their hammer every time. They're just hammering everything.
Yeah.
They're just trying it everywhere they go on the ice, and it's like, no, that's not the right situation. You got to get those foundational skills. Then we can work on the flashy move, and then you can learn where to use that move. And there is a time and place for some of those. You see it in the NHL. You see it, at the very, very highest levels of sports.
Pick up.
Yeah, yeah. But there's a place there to try that, learn that situation, get comfortable with it, and then maybe, again, you can use it once a year in the right situation at the right time.
No, because, in my experience, even like if we're just talking about shooting, like you look at something like that, whether you're talking soccer or even in hockey, like the setup for the shot. In hockey, we call it the pullback, but in soccer, you got to place it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And like just the art of the pullback. Do you practice just that? Like, or are you working on, the Michigan or the bicycle over a head to go over around the defenseman with? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think like that's part of the fun of being a kid and playing these sports. So like you got to allow some of that to come into play, right? And so like it's finding that balance between like, hey, let's learn this fun thing. Let's go, Matthew Tkachuk through the legs, bar down, or do we work on just forehand, backhand, tuck it in? You know what I mean? So, like, how do you find that balance?
I think there's a structured and unstructured time in a lot of practices, and in your unstructured time, whether that be at the beginning practice, end of practice, there's time for you to work on some of those flashier things and, ask a coach, hey, will you help me? Yeah, I really want to learn the Michigan, and I've had plenty of kids.
Yeah.
Like,
oh, yeah, for sure.
I really want to learn how to do this. Sweet. Let's take the 5 minutes when we first step on the ice, and let's work on that.
Mess around.
What I'm not going to do is take the whole team down behind the net and teach them how to pick the puck up and spin it around, and
exciting next game to coach.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I'd have a heart attack. But the structured time is when we're building those foundational skills, and then they can take that flashy move, and again, if they want to go to a stick and puck or in the driveway, whatever, they can work on some of those flashier things. But structured time, sticking more to the fundamentals and sticking to whatever that's age appropriate, what could be considered flashy at an 8U game is no longer flashy at a 12U AAA game. That's just a standard move that you pull off all the time. So it's also age appropriate for the maneuver or move of whether it truly is flashy or not.
Now, even on the coaches' side, I feel that even coaches can get caught up in this, in the Instagram, the flashy opposed to the fundamentals, and or not even fundamentals. Even like we were talking later today in the pod, where he talks like you're coaching for the game plan. You're not coaching to get better at the skills. You're coaching to just beat this opponent and how they play. You're coaching against somebody, not increasing your skills.
Yeah. For me personally, at the age group that I coach, my 8Us, I tell them every time, guys, I don't care if we win or lose. Like, we're here to continue to get better so that, the winning will come. If we do things right and we do things the right way and we work as a team and we have these fundamentals, the winning will just be a product of all of that. Maybe you can pull off a flashy play here or there and get a goal or two, but
I
at the
see
end
that
of the
like
day,
face-offs, things like that. You might practice face-offs for 30 minutes and a practice for this one play you're going to try, and it's not going to work because somebody's going to fall. And I see that a lot.
Yeah,
and it's the flash. I feel.
And spending your time in practice, like you said at the beginning, the things that happen over and over and over again. Are the things that we want to continue to build and progress on. For sure.
Well, Coach, this is a good one. It's a nice transition into the interview where we discuss with our guests, coaching skills over coaching game plans, and he makes a lot of good points. And I think coaches around should listen, and I think players can also learn from this one. Before we jump into that conversation, let's take a quick 10-second break and hear from our sponsors here. Our guest today is a coach who made significant impact at every level he's touched. Over the past decade, he has coached at multiple levels, including high school and college. Currently is the head coach of the George Mason University club football team, where under his leadership, the club has transformed into one of the top teams in the National Club Football Association. Prior to this role, he served as the defensive coordinator for the DC Divas in the Women's Football Alliance. He's a passionate coach who brings years of experience and dedication to the game. We're excited to dive into his football journey. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Aaron Raffel. Aaron, how are we doing today?
I'm good. That's a great intro. Thank you. I appreciate it. You guys have done some reresearch.
Yeah. Well, you make it easy with that resume of yours. It's real easy finding info on people with a resume.
Yeah.
I want to start with, I hear we got a big game this weekend in town.
We do. We've got a big game. We're actually going to Fairfield, Connecticut to play Sacred Hearts Club team, and we have a kind of a little bit of a rivalry going with those guys, and they snuck the conference championship away from us last year, so we plan on fixing that this year.
I was seeing that. I saw they ended up being the champs last year, so I'm sure big game. That kind of leads me into a little bit of, I watched your Coach Tube talking about the 3-4 attack. And I thought it was really interesting what you were talking about, and understand that I'm a hockey coach, so I don't totally understand the scheme of football, but I understood what you were talking about is how, you want to take the run out of the middle, push everything to the outsides. And what I thought was really cool is it allows you to focus on skill building and practice and not so much game planning for the other team. You're building football players and not people who can adapt to a new team. You're building skills and not game planners, I guess.
Absolutely. That's kind of a big goal of ours with that system is we don't want to have to. There are a lot of coaches out there that will change their scheme from week to week depending on what their opponents are doing. We wanted to be in a position several years ago at another school that I was coaching at where we could just simply get good at what we did and do that as opposed to, okay, well, this week we're gonna key these guys and we're gonna run this front and then switch that the following week. So we've kind of gotten to the point where we've systematized everything and everything's built in, and we've made it simple for us so that every week practice is easy. We can work on technique and just work our scheme, and we don't have to change what we're doing from week to week. So it's definitely made it good for us.
No, that's awesome. That's really cool. So when you do that, so we're pushing everything to the outside. So then, does that help you simplify when you're setting those schemes up and your plays to make sure you're focused on a few people that are going to go to the outside, or how does that work with you? So you're taking away the middle, you're pushing the running backs to the outside. Again, we're hockey coaches, understanding football, learning as we do this. So
Sure.
dive into that just a little bit more and explain that of how that
Sure.
works.
No, absolutely. So basically, our goal is we say that we don't want to allow any vertical entry into the defense. So what we're saying is we don't want the dive plays. We don't want the quick hitting inside plays. So we're gonna stuff everything inside because we want to force the running back to have to change directions.
Okay.
When you're in your backfield and you're 3 and 4 yards deep, behind the line of scrimmage, and now you've got to change directions to go somewhere else. Well, you're still 3 and 4 yards deep behind the line of scrimmage. So that's not a positive gain for you. And it gives us an opportunity, especially if we've got speed players on the edge. It gives us the opportunity to get in there and make the plays and make the stops.
Gotcha. It stops that momentum of that running back too when he has to shift sideways. All right, nice. Now, what I was seeing is so the way you do it, and we kind of touched on it earlier. You get to focus on coaching your defense. You're not coaching for the other team's offense. And I think I see that a lot in football, is where you're coaching for your opponent and you're not coaching for your team. And I see that in hockey too, where some teams can get wrapped up in watching so much video, and we're watching this guy do this, and we stop. Now when we hit the field, all we're doing is thinking. And I don't know about hockey. I know about hockey. And if you're thinking in a hockey game, you're in trouble. You're a little slow.
Yep, exactly. No, it's exactly the same concept. We will. Yes, we're gonna diagram what your offense does. If you're the opposing coach, we're gonna diagram what your offense does, but we're not going to do anything specific to change our scheme to adapt to it. We've already got all that built in. So all of our calls always work. We've always got bodies in the same in the same place, not the same place, but in the same helpful position. Exactly. So we don't have holes. We try not to create holes in our calls. Now, we will show the opposing team's offense to our defense just so they know what to expect. Or if it's something that we hadn't seen, in the past, we understand, this motion is going to move this guy from here to this side, and this is our adjustment. And the adjustments are already built in. We just sometimes don't get to see that throughout the season. So now we're going to exercise that adjustment. But it's all designed just to make us simple, and make it easy for us to execute. And what we have found is the easier it is to execute, the faster we're going to play, the less thinking there is. We don't have linebackers in conflict that are trying to figure out if it's a run or a pass, because there are a lot of offenses out there that sort of target, or try to put a linebacker in conflict and throw the ball behind him if he plays the run, or play the run if he drops, So we try to avoid all that. We end up trying to have coverage players that are 100% coverage, and we have run players that are 100% run. So we make it a little more, a little simpler for our guys. And at the same time, we disguise a lot of things too. So we make it a little harder to game plan against us, I think, that way.
I was listening to that, Coach U, and that's where you were saying once the players know kind of the system and how you guys play, you give them a little more free reign. You can go stand 10 yards off to throw a little confusion to the offensive guys too. Was I understanding that correctly?
Absolutely, yeah. We tell them once they've been in the system for a little while, and so it depends on the guy, right? Sometimes, or the girl, in the case of the Divas, sometimes that player may not quite be comfortable enough to come out of that base. And we give a very specific set of base alignments. If you're confused, if you're having a bad day, if this guy's beating you, reset, come back to your base. Somebody else might have a better time against the guy on their side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they can have that flexibility. But if you need to reset. It's not a big deal. And we tell our guys once they're comfortable in the system, and honestly, once we're comfortable with them in that system,
you gotta get your trust.
Yeah, exactly. We can turn that off and on, right? Hey, listen, we're doing all right, but you're pressing this corner, you're pressing this number one receiver too much. Back off a little bit, give them a little cushion. That way, you're protecting yourself. Yeah. So we do a lot of that, but we give them the flexibility, like I said, as we get into the season, to give them the opportunity to have some fun with it. Let them come out, not only disguise things for the offense, but it gets fun for them as well. So it's kind of a win-win.
Makes sense. That's awesome. You mentioned the Divas. Tell us a little bit about coaching in the female. Is it the Football Alliance, if I'm correct on that? How is coaching there, and how did that help you grow as a coach? I coach girls hockey. Both my daughters play, and so coaching the female side of the sport, and then it looks like that transferred into having a couple people on your current staff that are females, and kind of walk us through that process too.
Absolutely. No, it's a great experience, and it's being around a level of professionalism that you don't see a lot. We've got professional owners, we've got professional media, we've got players that, believe it or not, have been around for a long time. Now, a lot of them don't get the experience, unfortunately, as younger girls, younger ladies. But some do. There are several that are playing in high school and playing in college as well. And it's nice when you get them, right, when you get those athletes. But we've also had former Olympians, and we've had some very good D1 women's basketball players, and things like that. So it's great to be around them, and it's fun, because I mean, hey, there are some times when you almost feel like, hey, she knows more about this than I do, and it's great. It's great to see that experience. In fact, I remember coaching a linebacker 2 years ago with the Divas. We started talking about a specific call that we were putting in, and said, we're going to have two high safeties, but we're going to drop the middle backer back and try to get some depth. And she looked at me and she was, oh, like Tampa too. I'm like, okay, you knew that. That's exactly right. So perfect. But it's different, and for me, it was kind of an eye opener, because there's a slightly different mindset when coaching women versus coaching men, because women like to see the big picture. They want to see everything. Whereas we can tell a guy, listen, your key is this number 2 receiver. Don't take your eyes off of him. Just play him. He's going to tell you where to go. And they say, okay, cool. And they go do it. Women sometimes want to know well, who's got this person over on the other side, and I'm like, yeah, don't worry about that. We have somebody else for that person. No,
job.
I need to know. Right, exactly. But a lot of them will come back. I need to know who has that person. And so we end up having to sort of take a step back and okay, this is where everybody's going, and just little adjustments, but it's fun because they're so motivated, and they just want to get out and play. They want to be a part of it, and it's just fun to watch them grow. So yeah, it's awesome.
You said something interesting in there about you're pulling the girls from other sports, because I don't see many female football leagues.
Right.
And so I'm guessing that, what I mean, it's tough to recruit to get the girls to come into that league. And so tell me a little bit about that process, how you find them who have that passion for it.
So sometimes that can be difficult. However, there was another WFA team, Women's Football Alliance, that just did their tryouts, and October 19th, I think, was the start of national tryouts. And I want to say they had 115 women come out to their tryouts. Wow. So because the sport is growing, it's becoming a little more widespread. There's a huge social media presence about it. The WFA has got contracts with ESPN, so that the national championship game usually in July is actually played at the Hall of Fame Bowl in Canton, and that's broadcast usually on like ESPN2 or one of those sister channels. So there's definitely becoming this broader market for it, and people are becoming aware of it. You've got Haley Van Vroos and Shenandoah University, for example, just made a little bit of a headline last year. If you guys followed that or not, she was what was the description there? She was the first female college athlete to play something other than kicker, basically, and make it onto the field and make some progress there. So that was very well celebrated, and I know some of the coaches on that staff, and they were excited about that, to give her that opportunity. In fact, she actually used to be a DC Diva. But it's great, and it's on top of that, you see a lot more women that are coaching at the NFL level. You see women that are officiating at the NFL level. In fact, a lot of them, believe it or not, were actually DC Divas as well. So them being in those positions is also bringing a little more notoriety and a little more excitement to it. So.
No, hockey just got their first female coach behind the bench this year. I think assistant for who? Coach?
Seattle?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that's awesome, and loving that. And then you now have 2 women on your staff now, from what we were able to find. Did they come from the Divas also, or
yes.
was that from outside? Okay.
Yes, they were with the Divas. Christiana Floyd is my running backs coach. We call her Red,
I was
Coach
gonna
Red.
say, is that Red?
Okay.
That's Red, yes, sir. And she's phenomenal. She is an absolute technician, knows what she's doing. She's got a great connection with the guys, so the guys really follow her and pay attention to her when she's talking. And she drives like she demands that attention. It's awesome. So she's doing a great job with the running backs. We've got Alicia Blanding, who has actually just came up. So my offensive line coach, his wife has just had a baby. So
Oh,
Congrats.
congrats.
he's taking
Congrats.
some. Absolutely, absolutely. So he's taken some time off. Alicia has come in to sort of help fill a little bit of a stopgap there, and so she was an offensive lineman with the DC Divas, and she's phenomenal. She's also coached at a couple of high schools locally, so she's got great experience. She was looking for the opportunity, and it was just perfect timing. I have a backup offensive lineman or offensive line coach who was actually my defensive line coach. But it's nice to have that extra fill when we need it. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, happy to bring them in. I mean, it's they know how to coach, they know how to talk to people, they know how to get concepts and ideas across, and it works well. So
Did they play for you, or were they coaches with you for the Divas?
so Coach Red was a player and kind of a coach. She ended up taking a little bit of a hiatus and did assist with coaching running backs the my last year with the Divas. Um, the so Coach Blanding, trying to remember if she was playing. I think she may have been injured my last season as well with the Divas. So she didn't play much that I saw,
Yeah.
but I did experience some of the input and some of the impact that she had on the offensive line as a coach. Yes,
Nice. That's cool. You brought your previous players along with you.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
awesome.
Absolutely.
Now, besides being the head coach, you also are the defensive coordinator, correct?
Mhm.
And so, when you're looking at skills for defenders,
Mhm.
what skills are you really focused on building, kind of at that foundational level, to make them successful at your level or beyond? And how do we reinforce that growth and then building from there, from that foundation, to maybe some more advanced skills? But what are those real key foundational skills that you look for on your defense?
So really, the big thing for us is number one is discipline. There are everything that we do is rules based. So what happens is, as long as you adhere to the rules, you're going to be successful. And it's those guys that try to freelance a little bit somewhere
Get caught chasing and
that
looking.
freelancing. Yes, exactly. That freelancing can sometimes break things within the system. So discipline is a big thing for us, but a lot of that's mental. Um, as far as skills and techniques, every position has obviously its own set of unique mechanics, it's unique skills, it's unique footwork, it's hand placement, things like that. So we really try to focus on that, especially at the beginning of our seasons when we get into camps and we start looking at what's your back pedal look like if you're a defensive back, what's your ability to open your hips if you're a linebacker and you need to get outside and fight for depth and width. If you're a D lineman, are you able to? Because we do a lot of movement up front, so so we may be on the inside of the tackle, but we might move to the outside of the tackle after the snap. What is your ability to do that? Can you fire out of the stance, take that step, and keep your pad level low? So we look at each position, and that's why we got position coaches because they can evaluate those guys, and at the same time, it's this is the initial evaluation right now. This is where we're at as far as level of skill. We've got these guys who we can develop to get to that point, and then we've got these guys that are going to be developed as we go through the season. So we usually end up sort of putting them into those categories, and the way that at least the coaches that I've got, I love the coaches I've got. The way that they work, they're very good at developing the next player up, and whether that's D line, linebackers, defensive backs, they're very good at improving their skill. So we always focus on skill first, and then we work the scheme, and then we put everything together. So,
What kind of tools are you guys using to build those skills and help those players? What do you use to help evaluate the players and then also help teach them to, hey, you got to do this in your back, your back pedaling and this is wrong, your hands aren't working right or something like that. What kind of tools and tools are you using for that?
so honestly, probably the most impactful tool is the same thing you guys are doing, where we do a lot of film review. And we'll have, sometimes it's just a coach holding his phone up and recording a drill.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll actually have cameras and film the drills. Um, it's a huge benefit for us because we have the ability, because you always get those guys that come off the field and they're like, oh well, coach, I did this and this and I stepped that way. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure you went this way.
Video
No,
doesn't
no,
lie.
no, I went
Yeah.
that way. Exactly. And I don't know how many times. So sometimes coach quarterbacks as well, and I coach quarterbacks in high school a good bit, and um, I'll sit here and I'll hold my phone up and I'm recording a quarterback as he's going through his progressions, and he's like, oh well, coach, I saw this and this wasn't open, and I'm like, yeah, let's see, and I'll go back through my phone. I'm like, do you see that? Oh yeah, it was open. Yeah, it was open. Or you stepped with your foot and then you wound up, and that created a problem. You got to step and throw at the same time. And he's like, no, I stepped and throw. Let's see.
Let me hit rewind.
They
Hold
love
on.
it. Exactly, they love it when I have my phone out. So I do that a lot, but video has been a huge benefit. I mean, we can do cone drills and ladder drills, and we can run through chutes and drive sleds and all that stuff, and work the techniques that get you better at that. But showing somebody when in their mind, because a lot of times in your mind you're doing something exactly the way it should be done. It's not until you see video of yourself doing that sometimes
like, wow,
that you realize, oh, I did that wrong. Okay, so this is the difference. Compare this to what this guy's doing, and and that kind of triggers something in your head, I think, as a player.
Yeah, and I've noticed that with coaching kids with hockey, that when they're in live fire, when they're in a game, it's also different from when they are practicing. It's different when that person's like barreling down on you, gonna hit you.
that heart thump's a little harder.
100%.
Absolutely.
And it's those little silly mistakes that you make. And video, I found, is the one way that you can coach inside of that live fire moment. Otherwise, it's coaching during practices, or it's coaching after
Screaming from the bench.
100%, or it's after it's done. Like, it's that player that came off, and his brain, he did it correctly. You saw what happened, but now the proof is in the pudding. It's in that video.
Oh, absolutely.
And you show it to them, and then they can adjust and correct that inside of a game moment, not just in practice and not just with your communication on the sidelines.
Oh, absolutely. And we do some things where we'll have an end zone camera set up, and we'll have iPads on the sideline as well with our guys. And it's well, why did we get pressure through this gap? There shouldn't have been anybody there. And we can go back through the end zone camera and we can look at the gaps, and we can look at the guys, and who missed the block, why did they? And it's a lot of people will harp on, you missed the block, we got a sack because of that, blah blah blah. But like, what we try to look at is, you didn't move your feet. That's why this guy got by you, as opposed to you got to make that block. Yes, exactly. So we try to map a lot of that out, and having video available to us, whether it's practice or game, is just it's a huge help.
Now you talk about doing a lot of individual video with the players. Now with the way you were talking with your scheme, the 3-4 attack, and allowing the players to practice, do you do a lot of team video, or are you allowed to kind of take some of that off because we're not scheming so much?
So we do a lot of team video because we have in the attack, the whole concept of the 3-4 is the ability to move bodies. And when we're moving a body, we got to replace that guy with somebody else.
Gotcha.
And a lot of the time, we've got to make sure that guy that's replacing him is doing the other guy's job right, and is doing it right. So we'll come together as a team, and we'll review our defensive film, especially after games. Usually we do it Monday afternoon or Monday evenings. So we'll review the previous game, and it's, hey, look, we were sending this outside linebacker. Our safety should have been down. Why is our safety still so high? Up top in the field, and little things like that, or we lost contain on this side. Why is our defensive end not in the C gap? And a lot of them will come back. Well, I thought it was in the C gap. No, you were actually in the B gap, and we got concealed. So it's nice to be able to go back and look at it as a team. Because the other thing is, it's that way I'm not just addressing one player. I'm able to talk to the other guys that might be playing that position at some point in time, or the safeties that come down into the box that play like linebackers. They need to know the mistakes the linebackers are making, so that they know not to make those mistakes, or how to play that spot better.
Now, I always like to talk to coaches at your level. What do you work on off the field with your players? What kind of habits are you trying to build? What makes a college football player successful when they're not on the field? Because I think that's a big part of it.
Absolutely. Number one thing is going to be work ethic. And it's not just football work ethic. It's your work ethic and how you approach things in life in general. Don't tell people don't half-ass stuff, right?
Yeah.
So don't go part way and stop. Make sure that if you have a goal in mind, take the steps to get to that goal. Understand what it takes to get there, and kind of work backwards sometimes. And let's see where do you need to start in order to get to where you're trying to go. But of course, we do try to focus on, like even at the high school level, we focused on our speed and skill guys. Hey, go run track, right? Go run track. They're going to teach you how to run. They're going to teach you how to accelerate. All those things that are going to make you better in football. And some of them will push back. Coach, I just want to play football. Well, I get that, but track is going to make you better at football, right? If you want a shot at going somewhere, go run track. Or if you're a lineman and you want a shot at going somewhere, go wrestle. Understand leverage, learn how to use leverage.
Oh, smart.
That's a good one.
body.
Yeah, that's
so
a
we
really
do
good one.
that quite a bit. So it's always a matter of preparation, and if you need to hit the weight room, but be serious about it. Don't just go there as a social exercise and talk to your buddies. Go there to lift, get your lifts in.
Yeah, go with a purpose.
Yeah,
exactly.
Now, as a coach, we've all had players that are near and dear to our heart that are success stories where they've been great listeners, great learners. You've developed them above their means, what you thought was going to happen. Can you share a story with one of your players where, and it's not, your best player, it doesn't have to be that. It's like that player that came in, really stuck to the regimen, was dedicated off the field, on the field, and really grew and expanded as a player.
Trusted the process.
Was on
Absolutely.
board all the way, 100%.
No, absolutely. I've got a couple of those guys. Actually, I've got a defensive end, a gentleman by the name of Walker Haynes. He was actually a corner. He started off as a defensive back for us, and this was the high school level.
Okay.
And we had a pretty good depth chart at the defensive back level. And my DB's coach came to me and he said, "Coach, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get him on the field." He says, "Can he play linebacker? Can he play something else?" I said, "Well, we'll take a look at it." So we moved him down to linebacker, and we let him play. And I say down just because it's vertically lower in field. So we moved him. Because some people say that like you're going down the D line doesn't mean it's a degradation. You're not going down the D line. You're just moving further down the field. Anyway, so I said, "Yeah, let me take him at linebacker. We'll see what we can do." So we played him with a little bit of outside linebacker, and he was a small guy. He was 5'9", probably 145 pounds at the time. Not very big. So we played him at linebacker. He got pretty good at linebacker. We ended up moving him to defensive end. Okay, so this is a 5'9", 145-pound kid playing defensive end, which for us in the 3-4, that defensive end is interior. So he's playing inside the tackle.
Oh, geez.
But here's the benefit. So he was in the gym. He was in the weight room every day. He was at all of we used to call them green days. He was at all of our off-season practices. He did a tremendous, in fact, there was a D1 defensive end that came and coached with us at that school at one point in time, but was his personal trainer. So he actually hired him as a personal trainer. Spent a tremendous amount of effort trying to get better, make himself better. And the kid understood football. I mean, he just knew what was going on the field, and it was very impressive. And we put him at defensive end. And I mean, he exploded at that position because he was so fast coming off the ball. He was beating the offensive linemen out of their stances. So the center would just twitch the ball and he was gone. I want to say his senior year, I think he led us in sacks and tackles for loss, if I'm not mistaken. So he had like 19 tackles for loss, and I think he had 10 and a half sacks or something like that. It was crazy.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it was great. It was fun to watch him, and he went from hey, I'm going to be a corner and I'm going to make all these interceptions to all of a sudden I'm getting sacks, I'm getting that forced fumbles. He led us in forced fumbles, and I think fumble recoveries that year too.
Well, and what a display for the rest of the team too, to see like where you came, what you can actually do. You just put your head down and go to work.
Yep.
That's it. So he was all over the place. He ended up going to University of Chicago, played linebacker for them, and then became a coach with the University of Chicago. Has since coached at Rhodes and is now, where's he at now? Furman, I believe. So he's I think he's
Oh, he
coaching
took the coaching
receivers,
path too.
and
No,
to
that's
the
pretty
point
neat.
where he actually came over and coached with the Divas for a season. So I mean,
Oh, cool.
that's probably one of my favorite success stories. Um, more long term. I had a running back one time that fast guy. He was a track guy. He probably ran a 4.3 40 or something somewhere in that neighborhood, and he came to football as his first year. And he had no real football knowledge, right? So we ended up just kind of using him on defense. Same deal. He actually ended up playing defensive end for us. At the end of that season, he came to me in the weight room and he said, "Coach, I want to be a running back." And I'm like, "Dude, I want you to be a running back. Like, as fast as you are, I
Yeah.
mean, holy cow, you know." And so I said, "Well, here's the deal." I said, "If you want to be a running back, we can make you a running back, but you need to come to all the off-season workouts." The guy was already in the weight room constantly. He was a track guy, and he was squatting. He probably had the biggest squat that we had on the team at that point.
Strong legs.
And he was a skinny little guy, you know. But I said you gotta be in the weight room. You need to come to all the off season practices, all the 7-on-7 stuff. You need to be at everything. And he says, "Okay, I'll do it, coach." And he literally came to every single event that we had. That following season, we put him in the backfield and made him a running back. We played 9 games. He didn't really play much in his first game. He started the second game. He had 956 or 996 yards, I think, that season, because he figured it out. You know, you could see him starting to read. We taught him how to read blocks in the summertime, and you could see him. First game wasn't spectacular,
You could
but
see him
you could
processing that
see
block
throughout the
pattern.
season. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Once he started, and he would slow down. Like track guys are usually straight line. I'm just going to run. Um, Not a lot of agility, not a lot of side to side. But you could see that he started to settle down and the game slowed down for him, right? So he got to that point where he would get behind the blocker and he would be patient and wait to see which direction is he going to take that defender, and then he would cut off their backside to go from there. So it was a great season for him. But he had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun watching him. So yeah, that was probably my other second favorite. So.
Nice. Those are some really. It's really cool to see the stories and see kids succeed when they just put in all the work and they're able to reach
Absolutely.
that goal. I mean, it's so rewarding for me. I'm sure you felt the same way by the end of it watching
Oh,
them.
absolutely,
To see
absolutely.
how
Yeah, there's
proud
and,
they
and
are.
I've got a million of them, but yeah, that was absolutely watching those guys. And like I've put a few videos out there where it's like, this is why I coach, and it's clip of a guy doing something that he never thought he would ever be able to do,
Yeah.
and that's the stuff that I love. So
Now, what would be your big piece of advice for a high school player looking to take the next level, take that step to start getting recruited and really commit and get going in that way? What do you think the biggest thing these guys can do to help themselves?
so honestly, the biggest thing is in my opinion is make sure that you're not just living in a bubble, right? Make sure that if you've got a question about something that you're doing, ask somebody who knows. Um, and I'm not trying to dig on coaches out there, but there are a lot of coaches that are just putting in schemes and things like that, and they may not be experts in a particular position, right?
Yep.
It's okay to reach out to somebody else. It's okay to go find whether it's an in-person coach or a position specific coach. Sometimes guys are running clinics. Go find a clinic, right? Go find somebody like on-call coaches. Go find somebody that can evaluate video for you. Um, but don't live in that bubble where you're kind of pigeonholing yourself because you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing. At the same time, obviously, keep your grades up. When you want to start talking to coaches, find that school that you want to go to, or find a couple of schools that you want to go to, and contact the coaches. Right, as a collegiate coach, they're going to want to talk to you because they want to see your film. Are you somebody who's going to help my program? Um, Make sure that your film is right. Make sure that your highlights are exactly what they're looking for. Sometimes it's hard to see, but if you're following these coaches, a lot of them will tell you this is what I want to see. So try to follow what they're looking for, and just get yourself out there in front of them. Whether it's if you're a kicker, go to the kicking camps. If you're a long snapper, go to the kicking camps. If you're a linebacker or a skill guy, go to these 7-on-7 extravaganzas. Go to the those 7-on-7 events. Go to the USA football stuff. Go to the whatever's going on locally, even if it's a college combine. And a lot of places will host college combines that have multiple schools at them.
Yep.
Go to one of those. Get yourself out in front of people. Absolutely.
Well, and talk to those coaches too when you're there. Don't just show up, try to learn. Get in
Oh,
there, learn
absolutely.
something from those guys.
Introduce yourself, look them in the eye, shake their hand, tell them, hey, coach, I appreciate you having me. Don't a lot of guys will coach, I'm a dog, man. You got to see me. Like, let's go. Just back off of that.
Yeah.
Be a person.
Humble.
Right. Be a person. Come out and say, hey, coach, I appreciate you being here. If you get a chance, can you follow me on Twitter? Can you, or X? Can I send you some game film? Things like that. Like, be a person, right? Be a guy, be a man. So, or a woman.
I love that comment on doing a little bit of research on that coach. In today's world, we have access to so much technology and information that wasn't around when we were playing or coming through the ranks of whatever sport that was, where you can find that, like yourself, and the schemes that you run on your defense, and show the plays where you would fit into that defense. I don't need to show you a play where I'm rushing from the outside and pushing everything to the middle. That is exactly the opposite of what you want to see.
Exactly.
So there's some answers to the test that just, a 10-minute Google search can solve a lot of those problems, and it's so easy to do in today's world. And you can, like, most teams are televised in some way, shape, or form.
He's on YouTube.
Yeah,
I checked his YouTube.
I was just going there. Your games are on YouTube, and if you just do a little bit of research, you can see what they're playing and show them the video to those coaches of how you could play inside of that system and not play a completely different system, and send them a video that they're going to be like, "Why are you sending me this?" So
right.
Yeah.
When creating that, when creating that video, I wanted to circle back around to that. You said creating a highlight reel. Now in hockey, the video's a little differently for that. When they create a highlight reel, we don't want to see them just, snapping wristers bar down the whole time.
Scoring goals. And,
yeah, exactly. What do you recommend? How should they put that compilation together of themselves for a coach like you? What do you want to see as a coach when getting that video?
So honestly, what I look at, highlights are great, but they can be misleading, right? Because maybe you had good blocking, maybe you were playing against a team that couldn't tackle, right? So there's a lot of scenarios that could be happening there. What I want to know as a coach is, are you fundamentally sound, right? So sometimes it's not about, hey, I broke a tackle, but how did you break that tackle? Did you have a low base? Did you get your pad level lower than them? Did you stiff arm them? Things like that. Or hey, I made the block. Well, how did you make the block? Did the guy just happen to fall over and you pancaked him? Is that how that happened? Or did you actually get low? No, exactly. I mean, I've got actually a friend of mine who sent me film on his stepson, and he said, he's really good. And it was one of those. All right, well, I'm going to take a look. And now my friend was actually a lineman in previous life. I said, well, let me take a look. So I'm looking at his film, and man, I mean, he gets his pad level low. He gets underneath the defender, and you see him, like we always talk about, shoot your hips, right? Shoot your hips up through the block. And let me tell you, you never really see that in a game. Like, we teach it, and sometimes you get glimpses of it, but we teach it because we want to teach the mechanics so that they understand the leverage and the power and where the power comes from. But sometimes you don't really see that. Man, I saw it with him, and I mean, he just got underneath the dude. You see his hips roll up, and that was the first thing you saw was his hips roll forward, and I'm like, that's it, like, that's perfect. So it's those technical things that we want to see. Like, the highlights are fun, and okay, you made a one hand grab in the end zone, cool, right? You can do that, but can you do that consistently? And at the same time, send us practice film. We want to see what you do in practice.
Okay.
Like, the games are great, but I want to know, what do you do in practice? I want to know, how do you interact with your teammates? How do you interact with your coaches? And a lot of that comes into interviews with those coaches and sometimes with teammates, and a lot of times we get guys that will come. In fact, we've had this happen probably 3 or 4 times this season. We've had players that we've recruited that have come to us and said, hey, coach, my guy so and so that was back at my high school. He graduated. He doesn't have any offers. He's looking for a place to go. And this is in the summertime. He's looking for a place to go, but he's a great guy. He's a decent athlete, but he's a really good guy. And we've talked to those guys and brought them in. They're not tremendous athletes, but that's our job. We can fix some of that stuff sometimes. Or you look out and you do get these guys that are great athletes that were just overlooked by other coaches. So it just varies. But have those things again that sort of display your technical abilities on that film.
Well, Aaron, this has been awesome. I really appreciate you taking the time to meet with us and talk about it. As I said, this has been great. Tons of knowledge. Coach, you got anything before we let him out?
No, awesome interview. A lot of fun talking with you, getting to see you in person. We've talked a lot on the phone, and thanks for everything you've done on On-Call Coaches. You've been one of our most active coaches on there, working with a lot of different players. So thank you for what you've done there, and it's been cool on the admin side of that to watch those changes, to see you did one with the quarterback where he was tapping the ball.
Tap.
And then the last one, he's not tapping as much, and even his note was like, hey, I'm not tapping the ball as much. Like, I'm working on things. It's been really cool to watch players grow on the On-Call Coaches platform.
And
definitely, and that's a big thing for me. Like, when he sent that second video in and he told me, I think the first thing I said to him was, "Thank you for being coachable." Like, that's phenomenal. I love the fact that he absorbed everything that I told him, and you could see on the film he definitely got better from the previous iteration, from the previous clip. So yeah, that's what I love. So.
That's neat. Now, we always ask our players, our interviews, the last question is, how much do you cost on-call coaches per minute? And then how much video do you recommend players submit, let's say, weekly?
So what am I on call? I'm $10 a minute now, I think, right?
Yep. I think so.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. So it depends on what you're doing, right? So as far as the number of minutes, I could see things in a minute in some clips and some films. I could see things in 2 or 3 minutes. So it really depends on what you're looking at. The more information that I can get, the better I can help, I think. So obviously, if we're looking at 3 or 4 minutes worth of film, that gives me more things that I can cut up. That gives me more things that I can say, hey, look at your footwork on this one. You need to adjust this, but look at your footwork here. It was perfect. If you can replicate that, we're good to go. Little things like that. So just keep sending it. Keep sending it, and I'm happy to help.
Love it. Well, thanks a lot, Aaron. I appreciate it. Everybody, what is that? Episode 5, Coach?
I think 6 now.
6 in the books.
Yep.
Thanks, Aaron. Have a good one. Zane, good luck this weekend.
You guys are doing a great job. Keep it up.
Thank you. Bring home that win.
Yeah, big win.
We'll do.
This weekend.
Absolutely.
Have a good one. See ya.
Thanks, bud.